VIVERSE Create makes it easy for just about anyone to build immersive 3D worlds, and you don't even need to be a coding expert to do it. If you want to make your own virtual world but don't know where or how to begin, don't worry. We'll run down the basics with you and help you get started. Just remember these 3 things: plan, collect, and build. Let's start with plan. Before doing anything else, be clear about what you want people to do in your world. Do you want them to walk through a gallery or play a game? Knowing what kind of experience you want to create will give you an idea of what your virtual space should look like. Imagine your ideal space. How big is it? What objects are in it? What sounds are playing? Write everything down and sketch out a map. For our example, the world we're creating is a hedge maze where players can look for rubber duckies. We can sketch out the maze so we know how big the world needs to be. Since the scene editor will be using measures size and distance in squares, it would be helpful to think of the size of your world by how many squares it requires. For the maze we're making, our floor area will be 60 by 60 squares. This will be the base of our space. Since it's a maze, this is the perfect time to draw where the walls will be. We need to make sure that the walls are spread out far enough to let our VIVERSE avatar walk in between them. For the average VIVERSE avatar, leaving about 2 to 3 squares of walking area is a good rule of thumb. After sketching out the maze, we can then mark where we want to hide our ducks or where we want to add other stuff like photos and other 3D models. Once that's done, we can move on to step 2, collect. Since you already have an idea of what you want your world to look like, you can start collecting all the media you want to use. These include the textures for your walls and floors and other images, audio, and videos you want to appear in your world. For our sample maze, we can download free-to-use PNG images for the textures of our hedges and the ground. We just need to make sure that the dimensions of these images are in the power of 2. This means that both the length and width of the PNG must follow any of these dimensions. Aside from the textures, we can also download royalty-free images and audio files that we want to use. VIVERSE supports these following file formats. With all our assets ready, it's time to start building our world. For this, we will need 3 things. The first is a VIVERSE account. If you don't have one yet, go to VIVERSE.com and create a free account. The second thing is a PlayCanvas account. Again, if you don't have one, go to PlayCanvas.com and create a free account. Make sure to use the same email address that you used to create your VIVERSE account. Lastly, we'll need to install the VIVERSE-PlayCanvas extension for Google Chrome. Once it's installed, check the extensions page and make sure that it's enabled. If you need help creating accounts or installing the extension, you can click the links in the video description for step-by-step how-tos. Once your tools are ready, you're all set to start building. With our map already planned out, it's time to start building it in 3D. First, let's sign in to our PlayCanvas account. Click New, and then select Blank Project. Fill out the details such as its name and description, and then click Create. On the project page, click Editor. This loads our project. By default, PlayCanvas already gives us some entities to work with. Entities are any object you place inside a scene. These include 2D and 3D shapes, lights, cameras, sounds, and other advanced stuff. Since we just opened PlayCanvas, this would be the best time to discuss the coordinate system. Every time you click an entity, you will see 3 arrows. Each of these represents an axis. The red arrow represents the x-axis. Clicking and dragging this moves our entity horizontally along the x-axis. Doing the same for the green arrow moves it up and down the y-axis. While clicking and dragging, the blue arrow moves it along the z-axis. Knowing these axes will help us define the position and size of our entities. You may have also noticed the grid. This is the origin point of our scene. We can change the perspective by clicking and dragging our scene, and zoom in and out by rotating the wheel button on our mouse. We can also press the WASD keys to move closer, farther, left, and right. Now that you're familiar with the basics, let's start creating our floor. In our sketch, our floor is one big square with 60 by 60 dimensions. To change the size of our default plane, we need to click it and go to the Entity window on the right side of the screen. Here, we can enter the sizes we want under scale. Since we are creating a flat floor, we can leave the Y, or vertical axis 0. We can then enter 60 for both X and Z. This increases the floor size accordingly along those axes. We now have a flat 60 by 60 plane, which we can rename as floor. Now it's time to add the texture we downloaded. To do that, go to the Assets window at the bottom. Let's create a folder by clicking the Add Asset button and then Folder. Let's rename it to Textures. Let's double-click that folder. And once again, we'll click Add Asset and then Upload. Let's find and open our PNG file. Our file is named Tiles. Now that we have that, how do we put it on our floor entity? We must first create a new material. To do that, we can again click Add Asset, then Material. Let's rename the material Floor. On the lower part of the window, you'll see several options you can play with. For now, we will use Diffuse. Click it to expand the setting. Click the pen button and select our tiles texture. PlayCanvas automatically transforms our PNG into a usable material. Now, we click our floor entity. On the render window on the right, there's a section labeled Materials. Clicking the pen button allows us to select our newly created material. And voila! Our floor is now using the texture we selected. A lot of people make the mistake of moving on after this step. Don't be one of them. Although our floor looks like it's ready, it's actually an illusion. If we were to publish our world on VIVERSE now, our avatar would automatically fall through the floor. This is because we haven't set its object physics yet. Remember to treat any new entity we put in as just a hologram you can pass through. To make it more solid, we need to add two components. Let's once again click our floor. In the Entity window on the right, we can click Add Component, Physics, and then Rigid Body. Since this is our first time using this component, PlayCanvas will warn us that we need to import a necessary module. Just click the button to import it. You'll see it added to your list of assets. The rigid body component allows your entity to be controlled by physics. Here, we will keep it static to make it immovable. You can experiment with dynamic and kinematic if you want your object to move in your own world. The second component we want to add is collision. This dictates whether or not our avatars will get blocked or pass through our floor. In the collision window, you'll see half extents. Simply put, a half extent is the distance between the center of your entity to its outermost edges. When we add a half extent, we can think of it as adding the filling that will make our floor solid. Since our floor's dimensions is 60 by 60, we should set our half extents to 30 by 30. For our y-axis, we can keep it 0.1. Now, when we publish this to VIVERSE, we will have a solid floor. We can now repeat this same process with our hedges. Click Add Entity, 3D, and then Box. Let's change its size. I'm using 60 by 7.5 by 1.5 to make our first outer wall. Again, we can adjust the position by manually clicking and dragging the arrows or entering the values. I'm using 3.75 for the Y and -30 for the Z. You might be asking, why -30? It all depends on where the X, Y, and Z arrows are pointing. If we move our entity towards the direction of the arrows, the value is positive. If we go the opposite direction, it's negative. Once that's done, we can repeat the process by adding textures and the rigid body and collision components. Since you know all that, we can speed through this process. Here's a tip to make things faster for you. If you're going to keep reusing entities such as our hedge, you can press Ctrl+D or Command-D in Mac and then click and drag the entity. If you're going to change the dimensions of your entity, though, make sure to also change the dimensions of its collision. As you can see here, the collision is still vertical even if we change the shape to horizontal. Make sure to adjust the dimensions accordingly, otherwise you'll end up with a bunch of invisible walls in your world, which makes moving around challenging. With all the hedges in place, our maze is now ready. It's time to hide our duckies. For this project, I'm using a free-to-use 3D model of a rubber ducky. You can also upload your own 3D files as long as they're in GLB format. To do this, we first need to import the file into our assets library below, the same way we did with the textures. After that, we need to click Add Entity, then Entity. This will create a new entity item on our list. We can rename this to Ducks. Right-click this item, and then click Template, then Add Instance. This allows us to select our Duck GLB file from our Assets library. PlayCanvas will automatically import our Duck asset, including all its render files, materials, and textures, into our scene. Just like other entities, we can then scale, reposition, and duplicate our GLB model as we see fit. Let's hide this ducky here. Once all the ducks are hidden, we can now add a quest, which will make our world more interactive on VIVERSE. To do this, we need to click VIVERSE Scene Settings on the left toolbar. If you're not seeing the button, make sure that you're signed in to VIVERSE in another tab, and then refresh your PlayCanvas project. On the VIVERSE Scene Settings window, click Quest Config, and then Add Quest. Enter a name and description. I'm calling this task Duck Hunter. Afterwards, let's click Add Task. I'll enter a description and then select the task type. If you want your players to complete the task after just one action, you can select Check. But since for this quest we want the player to find all 5 ducks, we need to select Progress Bar and then enter 5 as the number of steps. Now, we can close this window and go back to our scene. We now need to click a duck, and on the Entity window, click Edit VIVERSE Extension. Under Select Plugins, click Trigger and Action, and then the Add button. As you can see, there are a lot of options on the drop-down list. You can experiment with these options on your own to see how you can make your world more interactive. For now, we will just focus on creating our quest. From the list, I'll select Notification Center Subscribe Entity Picking, click the Add button, and then select Quest. The Duck Hunter quest we just created is there. Let's pick that and then add task progress from the quest response list. And then finally, select the task we created. Once we've done this for all 5 ducks, our quest should be ready to go on VIVERSE. To publish our scene to VIVERSE, we simply need to click the Publish or Download button on the left toolbar. As long as you're signed in to your VIVERSE account, you'll be able to see the Publish to VIVERSE button. Click it to start the publication process. Once it's complete, click Preview. This will let us view our world in a new browser tab. On the top right corner, click Create World. I'm using Hidden Duckies for the name before clicking Create. And that's it. We can now make our finishing touches directly on VIVERSE. To view our scene on VIVERSE, we need to go to create.viverse.com and sign in. You can also find the URL in the video description below. Let's click our avatar, and then My Worlds. Here we'll see the list of all the worlds we've created so far. We can see that our recently published Hidden Duckies world is here. The first thing we need to do is click the More button, which this kebab icon here, and then click World Settings. We can update the name, which is Hidden Duckies. We can set the genre. I'll add Game. We can also add a description and upload a unique thumbnail so it catches people's attention once we make our world public on VIVERSE. When that's done, click Save. Now we can click to enter our world. Right now, our world is pretty bare. Aside from our rubber duckies and the quest that we created on the left side, we only have empty hedges. Let's start adding some more stuff to decorate our space. At the top, we can find the Edit Mode button. Remember these keyboard and mouse actions to navigate your space. Pressing the WASD keys lets you move forward, backward, left, and right. Pressing the spacebar lets you move up, while the Control or Command key lets you move down. Clicking and dragging the mouse changes your perspective. Let's now proceed to add objects. The menu below has 4 options. The first is Sketchfab Models, which lets us insert any of the available 3D models into our world. The second one is My Assets. If you're an avid VIVERSE user who's acquired special assets, such as 3D models, over time, you'll find them here. The third is Upload Object. Here we can upload images, PDFs, videos, and 3D models that we have saved on our computer. We'll be using this in a bit. And lastly, we have Upload via URL. In case our assets are stored on the cloud, we can just easily copy and paste the URL here, and they should appear in our world. For this demo, let's add an image. Let's click Upload Object, and then click the plus sign to upload a file. I'll upload from the images that we previously collected. VIVERSE gives a little preview. If we hover over it, we can click Add. We can now see the image inside our world. Right now, it's just floating in space. If we click it, we can see the object menu as well as the X, Y, and Z arrows. We can use these arrows to move our objects along the 3 axes. But a more efficient way would be to double-click the object. You'll see that the icon has changed to a blue hand, and the object moves wherever we move our mouse. If we move the object against any of our hedges here, we'll see that icon has changed. Clicking our mouse automatically mounts our image on the wall. If we click our image once again, we can see Properties window, which allows us to rename, rotate, scale, and even add a frame to it. Let's make our image a bit larger and add a frame. We can repeat this process and populate our scene with other images or 3D models and music. It's really up to you how you want to decorate your space. Once you're happy with your edits, just click Close Edit Mode. There's one other thing we can do while we're here. At the top right menu, we can see Settings, which is the hamburger button right here. Click it to see the menu. Under World Preferences, we can set the default audio volume, perspective, and language we want our world to use. The very last tab at the top is Permissions. This menu lets us set the permissions we want to grant the guests visiting our world. The most important thing here is access. Once you're ready to make your world public, select Public from the list, and then click Save. You can also do this from the My Worlds menu. And that's it. We've successfully created our very own 3D world on VIVERSE without having to code a single thing. With all these free-to-use options at your fingertips, there's no stopping you from exploring on your own and creating your own world.